Committee this Tuesday afternoon, February 10th. And now we're going to move to the budget presentation from the Vermont Criminal Justice Council. And we have the Executive Director, Christopher Brickell, and Lindsay. I'm going to try. Make him do it, Lindsay. Make him do it. Wait a second. Don't. I apologize. People have a horrible time with my name too. Thivirge.
Very close.
Okay.
Wait, say that again. I didn't hear.
Verge. To verge.
Okay, it's the Verge.
It's Vermont.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So over to whoever is going to walk us through just generally kind of the high points of the budget request. Really want to understand if you are supporting the governor's recommend, or if there's anything in addition beyond that you've been asking for. We'd like to understand what that is and the rationale if there are these additional things that's not in the governor's budget. So I'll turn it over to you, Christopher. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Chair, for the invitation and the opportunity to go over our budget with you. For the record, Christopher Brickell, Executive Director of the Vermont Criminal Justice Council. As you so aptly put it, it is Lindsay Taverge, the Director of Administration, who's joining me, and also Holly Farrant, who is the Chief Executive of our financial piece. I've never met Holly either online or in person, so this is new for me too. Jason is our typical folk. So welcome, Holly, and thank you for being here as well.
Yeah, thank you, Holly, for being here.
Thank you, Jason. Pinard is out sick today, so I'm standing in for him.
So I will start with really just a brief overview. Our budget is fairly simple and non-complex. We have a 4 and I'll make a little correction from the presentation that you have here. It's not a 4.38 budget, 4.38 million. It's actually a 4.33. But our budget this year increased a total of $71,443, or 1.68% increase in the general fund budget. The other increase that we had to our budget was $43,527, and that was an 11.11% increase in the interdepartmental transferred fund budget. Those are the funds that go to administer our highway safety programs. So overall, that breakdown is basically a 92.6% funded budget from the general fund and 7.4% that is funded by the IDT funds. We did have a vacancy savings rate that was 10.7% in 2025. And so far this year, 2026, it's at 12.5%. This budget also funds 2 exempt employees and 14 classified employees, so a total of 16 employees. This budget does also meet the governor's recommend of the 3%. So while we put our budget together, we were actually over an amount of 40,472. And we took from vacancy savings that 40,000 so that we could stay within the 3% of the governor's recommended budget. So going on to the 27 budget, and what does that actual money entail? It essentially covers, as I mentioned earlier, the $347,000, the IDT funds, which covers highway safety programs. So our DRE training, our A-RIDE training, SFSTs, which are the standard field sobriety testing for a DUI. And then what that also covers is obviously the 16 staffing positions. And it basically covers the operating expenses that we take into consideration when we are covering 82 agencies for training. So between state, local, and constables even are included in that training. It's 82 actual different agencies. And within that budget, we also use funding for agency compliance. So we are at a 96% compliance rate with the agencies that we have checked on. We still have one of the mandated policies that the council is responsible for, which is the fair and impartial policing policy. We still have, I would say, 3.5 agencies that we're still working with to get them totally compliant and be 100% compliant with agencies. Moving on to page 6 of this presentation, just so that you're aware, our cost per tuition student for level 3 training breaks down to $6,700 per recruit when they're actually going through the training. Now, that's just the level 3 training, which we do twice a year, and that is for 17 weeks residential training. That number fluctuates based upon how many recruits we get from the agencies, how well agencies are able to hire and get them through the process so that they come to us. So that number does fluctuate. But over the last year, to give you an idea on some of the costs, we've had over 27,544 meals that were served, which we're responsible for statutorily to provide anytime somebody's receiving their initial certification. So that's part of our cost. Was there a question there? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So that there's a comprehension on the amount of training that equals 705 hours of actual training that a full-time level 3 recruit does. That doesn't include things like community projects that they do, a special event that they hold with Special Olympics, class reviews when they're getting ready for tests and quizzes that they do the night before, in any administrative time. So that 705 hours is actually classroom and scenario-based training time that the recruits have. We currently have right now statewide 1,070 level 3 certified officers. Those are full-time certified officers, and 456 level 2 certified officers. Those are the less than full-time. They come here for a brief period of training, go out, get their FTO training within their agencies, and they are in the field as part-time officers. And they are what we used to refer to as part-time officers. Also, out of the costs that we incur, we've had 74 complaints so far this year of unprofessional conduct against law enforcement officers. That doesn't mean that those 74 complaints are all legitimate complaints, but that's the numbers so far that we have received this year. Those,
I apologize. Yep. Before you go on, when you say this year, just 2027 or this fiscal year?
In 2026 so far this year.
26, I meant 2020, geez, 2026 versus the fiscal year. So just the past month and a half. All right.
Yeah, and a lot of this, to break that down, like they have to meet the statutory requirement for what we would investigate or what we would accept as a complaint. Oftentimes we'll get complaints that are just on an officer's demeanor or behavior, or that somebody was issued a citation for something. A result of an investigation is not something that we oversee. It's unprofessional conduct. So sometimes that number appears larger than it actually is. Of those complaints, and not just those complaints, but we've had 13 stipulated agreements. And of those 13 stipulated agreements, what doesn't get accounted into, and which you will see in a future slide, is some of the pressures that we face as a result of the changes in the statutes of unprofessional conduct, are the amount of administrative time and legal time that gets devoted to that process. So the stipulated agreements are ferreted out through our attorney's drafting, and then that agreement is worked into with either another attorney or the officer directly themselves. And in the event that there isn't a stipulated agreement, that goes to a council hearing, which is yet another expense. So prior to July of 2025, Category B offenses of unprofessional conduct, which were the most commonplace type of complaints, were confidential by law for a first offense. Now, as of July 2025, all unprofessional conduct complaints, both on and off duty, are actionable by the council, so they are public information. And what that means to us, which we couldn't totally anticipate ahead of time budgetarily wise, but what that means to us is now every complaint that we have that's legitimate, that gets followed through the process, ends up in either a stipulated agreement or a council hearing. And that's not only very time consuming, but it's also very costly. When we talk about council time, our council is a member of 24 people that are volunteers. And so we have one special date per month that's set up just for hearings. So that's the involvement of 24 people, but then legal staff, experts that might have to come in and testify. So we're averaging about $5,000 a cost per hearing when we have to go to a hearing. So those are some things that you'll see in future pressures that are not allocated for in this budget. Moving on to some of the successes that I just want to make sure that this committee is aware of the amount of work. So we're very fortunate, and some of the members of this actual committee visited us this past fall to see some of the work that goes on here, because a lot of folks hear about the Academy or the Criminal Justice Council, but they don't know the extent of what the work is that's actually done here. So what I'm going to move on to is just a couple of things that we do on a regular basis that folks may not be aware of. So obviously we had to create professional regulation procedures. That took staff time, that took attorney time. We have regulated procedures that have been adopted by the council that outline how we handle unprofessional conduct complaints. We have a new written entrance test, which was now corrected for the old test, which was determined to have disparities. So we wanted to make sure that we regulated those. We also went through a process where it is now available online. So for instance, if an agency has a potential recruit or a potential hire that they want to hire who is from another state, they don't actually have to travel here to come and take the written test. They still can, but they can take it online now. So those testing processes that get the person to the next step for a hiring through an agency can be done online. We implemented our ACADIS RMS, our CAD system here, so that we have better processes that are more clearly defined and allow for us to have interactions with the agency. So agencies can log into our system, submit their own training records. They can schedule training if they want to come here to the Academy. It's much more interactive. So it's not a one way where they actually have to come here or we have to go to them. So they can access those, but it also makes all of our records automated and brings us into line with some of the recommendations that we received from the state auditor's office. So we're coming into line with the auditor's report. And then we're midstream of our curriculum rewrite and review. So the training that is going to be for law enforcement officers in level 3 certification. We hosted this past year the IACP Women's Leadership Institute in an effort to support women leaders coming into law enforcement and coming to the state of Vermont so that we get a higher amount of women leadership and women recruits. We also hosted our first naturalization ceremony with the court. So we had host families and new American citizens that were able to take their oath here and become citizens. We've participated and staffed in career booths at our local high school here at Fairhaven, attended National Night Out activities and the Rutland's Pride Festival this past year. We've hired a FIP instructor, so we now actually have a fair and impartial policing instructor statewide, so there's an actual position for that. We also are required to provide mandatory FIP training to all law enforcement, and we've done that and included neurodivergence training that we have been offering regionally with our FIP instructors, so that has been taking place. We've hired an attorney. We have just had a canine detection and patrol school this past year. We are starting, I believe, in April, our next patrol school for canine. We completed an identity-based policing job task analysis. So that was another project that we did separately on a contract because it plays into what fair and impartial policing does. But some of the things that have been identified in the fair and impartial policing policy already are in play, but this is a better way to get officers aligned with all of the different cultures and the people that they're going to deal with on a regular basis in the state of Vermont. We've had the expense, and I'll speak to that again momentarily, on translating our fair and impartial policing policy into 14 languages, including an ASL video. That way we're reaching everybody that is impacted by that policy so that they know and can expect how law enforcement will interact with them when they're dealing with law enforcement. And then one of the big ones, again, that'll speak to a little bit about one of the pressures that we face is we've continued to contract with O2X. O2X is a company that we have contracted with for an overall officer wellness. It's especially important with the recruit classes that we're bringing in here for the level 3 certification. Training years ago used to be they came in here and they did PT with the training coordinators, and they'd be, doing their 1.5 mile run and their push-ups, sit-ups, and all the PT that they regularly do. We realized and recognized that people get hurt and damaged sometimes during just regular PT training if they're not really acclimated before they get in here. We started working with this company, O2X, initially because we found that 2 recruits that were coming into us had been previously diagnosed with rhabdomyosis. And so we didn't want to worsen that condition. And it's a condition that once it happens, you can do a lot of physical damage to somebody, and we couldn't risk that happening. So that's what began our career with O2X. But what that provides for us is an on-site person who acts as an athletic trainer who can diagnose impact injuries, soreness injuries. It's reduced the amount of trips that we have recruits taking to the hospital or doctor's appointments. It significantly reduced injury rates here at the academy. And it also incorporates wellness. So we're talking about sleep nutrition, our health, and our food choices when the recruits are here. So having that person on site and being a part of the recruits' everyday life has been an overall help to the recruits' welfare, which leads to their future success, and also a reduction in the injury rates that we're seeing. So for us, that's a statewide impact that reduces workman's comp claims. I haven't been able to make that argument loud enough in our budget for that to be successful. It's a costly endeavor. It's a $200,000 contract with O2X each year. Our first year, we were able to manage. This year, we were not. We didn't get the budgeted funds. And what we did was we booked some of our vacancy savings. And out of that 200,000, we still couldn't afford that. But the company itself found a grant for us that covered half of that cost. So we've continued it for another year. But if we were to go a following year after that, and we think it's a very worthwhile program, that's going to be a future cost to us in a future budget, not this one. Moving on to just a couple of other things. We've graduated 74 level 3 officers and 54 level 2. As I mentioned earlier, we hosted, and some of you attended, a legislators meeting here at the Academy to give a tour and an explanation of what our programs are. We have had 6 in-house agency visits that we've done for compliance checks to make sure that not just that their policies that they're required to have are in place, but that their training records are accurate, their compliance rates, so that what they have to respond to and send to us is accurately depicted, so that we're verifying what they send us actually is accurate. We've done fair and impartial policing policy reviews of several agencies. We've conducted death investigation schools, background investigation schools, de-escalation training, and instructor training schools, internal affairs schools, sent a staff member to de-escalation train the trainer program as part of a de-escalation initiative that we're moving forward on. We put together an alternative pathways subcommittee because we've been mandated by the legislature several years ago to come up with training other than a residential model. That hasn't happened. There has been no funding for that to have happened. But the alternative paths work group was for me to get an actual answer to come back to the legislature on why we haven't been able to do that. And oddly enough, that work group consists of the education field, folks from within the Vermont State Colleges, and subject matter experts within law enforcement, and all of the law enforcement agencies that are on the council all looked at these and felt that the residential model that we do is not only the best model that they feel, but it's an essential piece. So even if we break from that, there are parts of what we do here at a residential academy that just can't be replicated in a classroom and can't prepare people for what the profession actually asks of them. So we're looking at dual models of how do we have something that can prepare people before they even come in here, but then schedule them to come into the academy to do the hands-on, the scenario-based training that we would have to make sure that they can adequately do to make sure that they're prepared for the profession. We've also voted on annual training requirements, updated K-9 standards, and then we have this committee provided for us, although we were not completely aware of it last year, draft procedures that we needed to come up with for 20 VSA 2359, which is the procedures on what we are required to do for agency compliance. So to keep agencies in compliance, the auditor's office found that what we should be doing was to make sure that we had a procedure. So I'm going to get this backwards, that we had to have a policy in place to hold agencies accountable for the standard mandated policies that they're required to have. In legal review of that mandate from the auditor's office, what we really found is that we needed to have adopted a procedure. We are in that process now of adopting what those procedures look like so that we make sure that we have a process that we can go to agencies and say, if you're out of compliance, we're going to cut your services to the academy. In the meantime, we have adopted a draft procedure that has been adopted by the council so that we can move forward in that step if there is an agency that stays out of compliance. So getting back to our budget, the only budget ask that we actually had for this year was a $30,000 request for one-time funding, which was really for language access. And that was for us to have the ability to translate policies and language for the communities that we would be serving. So things like our use of force policy, which is rather extensive, it would make sense that the communities that are impacted by a law enforcement use of force policy can be read in their native language so that they understand what law enforcement knows that they're following. So those are the things that are rather costly. When we did tap into this last year, there was a funding through the Office of Racial Equity that we were made aware of from the Agency of Administration that there was that fund. They did do that for us. That was a cost for one policy of over $18,000. So we have multiple other policies that we should really be doing just as a matter of what's fair and equitable to the people that need to understand what our policies are. We did go back to the Office of Racial Equity as suggested by the Agency of Administration, and we're told that we really should put that into our budget request because there are other agencies that also will be coming to them for that funding. So we did make that request. Just so this committee is aware, we have gone through House Appropriations. They understand that process, but also know that we were directed back to the Office of Racial Equity. So there's going to be some question as to whether or not they feel that that's an appropriate ask on our part. And then the only other ask that we had, which was going to be the $300,000 for us to actually complete the curriculum review, was handled through the Budget Adjustment Act that we understand did come out through the House. So now we're just waiting to see where that falls, and we're hopefully going to be successful there. So those were really the only two asks that we had that impacted our budget that were outside of the 3%. I'm happy to get into, if you would like to hear what the future pressures might be. They're on page 10 of our handout, but I don't want to take up your time if you have other questions.
Well, actually, one of my questions was going to be what your cost pressures are that you're facing right now. So please, proceed and talk a bit about that.
Thank you, Chair. So again, the wellness program, which to us is a cost of $200,000, which is what I spoke to with O2X. I can't stress enough the importance of that program in that it takes away some of the responsibilities that our training coordinators have when there's a full-time class in session, but really focuses solely on the recruit and their wellness during the time that they're here, making sure that whatever they might have for a pre-existing injury before they come here is recognized, diagnosed, and then we give them an alternate path of keeping physically fit during the program without overusing whatever that pre-existing condition was, and then putting that person in a worse situation or a potential failure where they can't then complete the academy. So while we don't have any say over who agencies send us, it is our responsibility once they send us to look out for their well-being. So for us, that's an important program. We want to try to move forward with a de-escalation curriculum, which to us would be a cost of about $250,000. We did find and did apply for a grant for de-escalation training that was awarded. We haven't accepted yet because we haven't gotten the okay from the state to do that yet. So we're still waiting that. But given the pressures of, we already do de-escalation training where we identify it in our curriculum, as well as how we do it in scenario-based training, and recognizing that there are other requests and other pieces of legislation around mental health crisis training and things in that nature. That's a worthwhile investment that will be a future pressure for us as well, if that gets given to the council for us to be responsible for.
Before you go ahead, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
absolutely.
Before you go ahead, so you said approval from the state in what sense? Who's approving the grant?
I will shift that to Lindsay because she's got the best information for you on that.
Hello. Yes, for the record, Lindsay Taverge, Director of Administration. So I believe from our budget analyst, it's in process of signature. It has to go through the governor and then JFO to actually get to the point that we can accept that.
Okay, and so if that is accepted, you're saying that going forward, you may have a higher annual cost of implementing that? Is that, did I understand that right?
That's correct. So that initial funding would get us the technical and expertise from outside, as well as partially the equipment to do that training. But then that would be a program that we would want to move forward with and enhance what we already do, but have a new program that would cost funding.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Then,
Another question, I apologize,
Yep.
for another question, Angela.
Thank you very much. Just a question about that type of training. I just realized I don't know this. Does the Criminal Justice Council provide and the Police Academy provide like ongoing training, or only as officers are being trained? Does the responsibility shift to local law enforcement?
That's a great question. Yes, we do continue with ongoing training. So we have 2 basic full-time certification courses per year. And then we have 3 level 2 that'll go in between those 2 courses. So those are for part-time certified. But all throughout the year, we have in-service training that is offered to agencies. So agencies can conduct their own training. They can go out and get outside training wherever they want. But we try to bring programs to the state that are worthwhile for people that are already certified to further their education and further enhance their skills that serve the communities that they're facing. So for us, de-escalation is just a continual, everything that law enforcement does should start and does start with de-escalation. So before you even insert yourself into a situation out in the field, de-escalation should be the first and foremost thought on a law enforcement officer's mind. So it's treated heavily here.
Thank you.
Karen.
Just following up on that, I appreciate understanding how the system works and how sites can get their own training or come to you. What trends are you seeing? Is it kind of staying the same as far as departments choosing to use the council or doing things on their own, or is there a shift? What have you been seeing over recent years?
So some courses are somewhat fixed and in constant need by agencies. So a lot of times we'll have FTO certification, so field training officer certification, because agencies have to have certified field training officers to train their new recruits when they come out to them. Or if they're getting level 2 folks, they have to work with an FTO as well initially. Agencies are always in need of training for internal affairs investigations. They need supervisory training so that they can promote within their ranks folks that they feel are competent to help with the assistance of running their agencies. We host once a year a death investigation school, which is something that almost all agencies look for, to have somebody that's certified within their department that can handle death investigations, because that's kind of a unique certification in that we provide that training, although it's not a certification training, it's part of the requirement to be able to be authorized as a person that can conduct death investigations. And that certification actually comes from the elected state's attorneys in each county. They designate the law enforcement agencies within their county that have the authority and the training and the expertise to do death investigations. We also have a almost annual need for firearms instructors training, use of force instructor training, driver training. Again, anything de-escalation wise, these are all avenues that we try to bring in new training to make sure that agencies have a wide variety of things to choose from. And then add to that the pressures of, making sure that fair and impartial policing is not something that you're just taught at the academy and then it goes away. That's something that's a continual progress, and agencies may need to make sure that their folks are up to speed on, and that they're interacting with their communities in the way that their communities expect them to interact with them. So that's just a piece on in-service training.
And I apologize. I'm curious if, like, regarding the number of departments that you serve for trainings, has that been going up, down, level?
I would say it's usually pretty steady. I think it's fair to say that because of the amount of time that we have within a year and how many offerings that we can offer, that it's a fair statement to say that agencies also look outside into other states to get either specialized training or training for homicide investigations or crime scene investigations, things that require a very specific niche, but we may not get enough people that would come here for that type of training. So those are some of the things that agency specific might want to go outside, away from the academy for.
Okay, you keep on going. I know there are a couple more things you wanted to hit as far as future pressures.
Yep. The other two things are the IBR curriculum, so the identity-based curriculum. As I mentioned earlier, we had the job task analysis done. That was also through a contract that was working somewhat jointly with the IADLIS project that we're working with and the fair and impartial policing as well. But they go hand in hand. So a lot of people look at our fair and impartial policing policy, and some will look at that and read it and say, boy, this is really a heavy immigration policy. And while it does have a lot of components in immigration, our law enforcement partners' interaction with federal authorities, civil immigration law versus criminal investigations, it does in fact have all of that. But the identity-based curriculum is more around officers taking the fair and impartial policing principles, but using that in their everyday life, in their communities, with the different cultures and the people that they deal with within their communities. So understanding the nuances of a different culture in somebody in your community, or the religious beliefs, or how they interact with law enforcement. That's what the identity-based curriculum is really about. So we're trying to weave that into fair and impartial, but it's another big chunk, and we want to make sure that that's done in conjunction with and not separately from. So that's another promotion that we would really like to move forward with. So we already have the job task analysis completed, and we know where within the fair and impartial policing policy all of those things interact. Now putting that curriculum into play is the next step. So that would be our next future cost. And then the last one really that I just want to touch upon is the legal services. We could literally use 2 full-time attorneys here, and I know that's not in the books or in the future with the state pressures that we're facing. However, I do know the responsibilities that are on our attorney, and aside from all of the tasks that I put on him and the policies that need to get reviewed for adequate processes on our part. The Administrative Procedures Act and just going through rule changes and the time that is allotted to that, and then the hearings and the stipulated agreements of unprofessional conduct. We're going to, I know undoubtedly, we are going to have much higher costs in the realm of unprofessional conduct and how we manage those future hearings. And it's something that we can't overlook because we are the body that is responsible for the certification of law enforcement officers. So that's really the last future pressure that I wanted to speak to.
No, I appreciate that. Right, well, I really appreciate it. Sounds like at least for this coming or this next budget, it's fairly narrow. The only additional ask beyond the governor's recommend is that $30,000 for the language translation, as I understand it. But we should be looking in future budgets that there are some developing needs, certainly. So no, this has been very helpful. I really appreciate all of your time, and we may be seeing you again on some other things that we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks. So I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to move up. Oh, there, we all have frozen. All right, so we are going to move on, though. You're all frozen, apparently, but
It's an us thing.
It's sad.
It seems to be fine.
yeah, okay. All right.
So I check the live.
Shouldn't be.
So they all
Yeah, double
froze.
check, just double check the live stream to make sure that we're
Gotta love the connectivity.
okay. So we'll move on to the Defender General's budget presentation next. If you could join us.
Well, that's not the free.
You're
gonna freeze up on us too?
My guess is they were all in the same place.
Yes.
We're all fine. I didn't have enough bandwidth.
Probably. Please again.
I have to kind of hook up.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. No, she's back. Thank you again, Christopher and Holly. We lost you for a few moments, and we're moving on to the Attorney General. So really appreciate your time. It was a very helpful presentation.
It's a great way to end my conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Well, if you consider. I did forget to ask how many. We had 74 level 3 grads last year. I wonder how that compares to the last few years. So I can find out there. Right.
Well, that's the thing I'm trying to get at. Like, are they serving the same number? Are they seeing less?
I think they have to have the same hours of class if it's a full class or if it's a partially attended.
Yeah, but if it's not well attended, that's
No, I think
concerning. It's fewer meals.
it's
Yeah.
And I highly recommend if they provide an invitation again this summer. I know at least Alicia and I, and there were a few others who went. They had like a day there where we could see what they do, and it was good. It was a good learning experience. So I can miss you.
You
You there? Oh, you were there.
You have it covered.
Do you need to be
I need to actually be able to get here.
okay? Let's see if I can I need to become a co-host.
I just did this on, this link isn't linking. Oh, I know what. Never mind.
All right. I'm good. This is not like
Yes, it's right
there. We'll be happy to talk about it. All right, maybe we'll be right back to get you set up. So is the budget documents, would that be on the JFO site as well? Do you know?
You're asking me?
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. I will look myself. See if I can find it.
I think I saw it, but I'm not sure I saw.
That's not even, don't even bother with that. I'm gonna show you what you need to see.
Oh, good. All right.
Because when I first was DG, these budget docs that they were 12 pages. And this year they're 43.
Yeah.
So, and literally there's no additional information being provided.
Wait, is that a document that came from the Defender General's office or from JFO? 43.
We have to fill out some kind of
Okay.
thing.
Oh, okay. So it's, right. Okay.
It's House of Popes one.
No, it's unbelievable.
Oh,
I'm looking at that right now.
Really, you know,
Well, they have an organization. Well, isn't that the document that we require in the statute that I asked you about a couple weeks ago?
yeah, it used to be 12 pages. It's now 43.
Yeah, because what he's saying
I'm
is,
giving
it's
you-
like hooey now.
There's literally pages and pages and pages of stuff that are irrelevant.
It is National Hooey Day.
No,
No.
no, seriously.
Any moment, they can be back up.
And it seems like I'm here, but
You're here, I can see you.
he's got
You
to
are here.
oh, there's nobody over there.
No, they're here.
They got to let me in.
We're alive. Just hanging out.
Oh, there he is.
We didn't even notice you were gone, Nate.
Everybody did but Karen.
No wonder nothing. Tap.
We'll have you up and running at any moment.
I believe you.
Our tech guru has returned.
I'm sorry, I was thinking I needed to go faster.
No.
That's all right.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Oh, all set.
Yeah, will you see that last?
Yeah. Oops.
You're muted. You're good.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Fun.
It's just a big holiday. So,
It's a jolly holiday.
about how you look at it.
Mary Poppins.
It's popping all right.
From the beginning.
Is this that 43-page one or is that?
No, this is what you need.
Oh, okay.
Are you trying to irritate him?
You ready?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we're all set.
It's not done. Do we have this?
Completely.
No.
Yes?
Yeah.
No, Senate Judiciary, I mean, House Appropriations has it, because I did this exact thing last week.
Put it on their committee page.
But I have to say that, yeah, no, this is the one. Anyway, I'm Matt Valeri, I'm Defender General, and this is the budget for 27.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy. The Defender, if you don't know, sometimes I have to go into these appropriate meetings and they think I'm the Attorney General. So I have to tell them what we do. Do I have to tell you that?
I think we're
No,
good. I think we're good.
All right. If you need a refresher, it's this slide. This is important, though. We're structured in a unique, well, you'll be able to see it on your screen when you pull it up at another time.
That we don't have access to now.
Right. The Defender General's office is split into basically two types of programs. So on the one hand, we have the public defense side. That's there. That right there. It's kind of kinky. And then the green side is assigned counsel. Public defense side is primary public defense, which is the staff officers and contract officers to provide the primary public defense function. They represent about 60% of the state caseload. The other side, which is, it's called assigned counsel, but it's the conflict side. So where there are conflict involving cases and clients on the public defense side, those get pushed to the conflict side of the program. I budget and manage both sides of that program. And on each side, there are serious felony units that handle homicides and some very serious life in prison cases, like serious sex cases. And that's on both sides. We also have what I call caseload relief contracts, which do a couple of different things. One, the most primarily now what they do is when all of the conflict contractors have a conflict, the courts get, and one of the cases is a felony, the courts give me a call, or send me an email and say, hey, we've got this case and all of our local conflict contractors have a conflict. So can you get us a lawyer? And I have these caseload relief contracts, and that's what they do. The other thing they can do, and although it hasn't happened as much in the last year or so, if somebody in a staff office is out on parental leave, or they are ill and can't work for an extended period of time or whatever, I can deploy a caseload relief contract to accept cases in that county to keep that case flow covered. On the assigned counsel side, you also have this assigned counsel conflict side. We also have ad hoc assignments, and that's cases go to ad hoc if all of the conflict contractors have conflicts, and there's usually now it's only misdemeanors, because if there's a felony, I send it to a caseload relief contract. There are times, and I've not actually run into one where I had to send a felony to ad hoc in a while, but I think it might be a case coming now out of Windsor County, where there's like 11 co-defendants, and I don't know if I have enough lawyers under contract to do that. And so then when that happens, the court has to find ad hoc counsel, which is basically anybody with a pulse and a law license who's willing to take the case. That's why usually it's just very minor misdemeanors that go that way. But we'll see what happens with that. But there's important things about remembering these distinctions between primary public defense, conflict contractors, and ad hoc. And I'm going to explain some of that. First, what I did want to talk to you about is basically what the governor's recommended budget does. It effectively continues the current service level. It provides funds, the staff salary and benefits that roll out, and some of that is subject to collective bargaining agreement with our non-lawyer staff. All of the lawyers are exempts and don't fit under that, but we are under the Defender General's pay plan addendum, which is pretty much a rote situation if you aren't getting a step, you're probably getting close to being fired. So the bottom line is steps occur pretty regularly. We also have, as I said before, primary public defense contracts. Vermont evolved from the very beginning when the system was devised in the early 70s, where we have staff offices like in Chittenden County and St. Albans and Addison County, and also contract public defense offices like what we have in Windsor County and in Washington County. When I first started as DG a long time ago, those contracts were negotiated on an annual basis, which led to a lot of uncertainty in budgeting. What I did one of the things I did very early on was I made those contracts 4-year contracts to coincide with my term. And so this year, this past year, I was reappointed to another 4-year term. I'm 1 year in. This year is the second, it's the year 2 increase that was negotiated as part of those 4-year public defense contracts. We have, it was also provided in the governor's recommend an increase for public defender serious felony unit contracts. I can give you, I think it's important actually to kind of understand this, and also for the conflict SFUs. We just divide this. There's no real rhyme or reason. You can put them in one lump because they both get conflicts or primary public defense murder cases. But when I was, again, this goes back a long way, but I think this is important. Serious felony units were implemented under my watch, and they were originally budgeted for $150,000 per unit. Governor Dean at the time was holding that money, froze the money, and then I got appointed, and I said I can implement them for $100,000 and save you 50 grand a unit, which we did. Over a period of years, I've increased those payments to 110, 115, 120, whatever. Right now, we are at 150,000. So the bottom line is today, as we sit, those units are getting funded the same as they were originally appropriated in fiscal year 2002. So I told them that we need to increase those because one of the other things that happened is all the other contracts have kind of caught up. And so there's an increase for those two things.
Question.
Yeah, Kim, go ahead.
Thank you for this. And as you're sharing this, it's reminding me maybe of last year's, but like, you just know this budget very well. It's been a very long time that you worked with it. And so in seeing this, is just to get context, you are not asking for anything outside of the governor's recommend. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay. So
I'm
these
just-
things
I'm-
that
what
you're
I'm-
saying is what's in the governor's recommend right now.
Right. This provides, the governor's recommend does provide for an increase in third-party services. What that primarily is investigators and other people we have to employ to do our casework. We do a lot of investigation. We also do, and this is on the assigned counsel side and the public defense side, if you have a contract. Those, we're using private investigators routinely. Our private investigators are currently getting paid $50 an hour, which is less than half of what pretty much everybody else in the system, around New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, are, and the feds are like 175, I think, or 120, depending on what it is, but 125, 175. New Hampshire is anywhere from 90 to 125. Massachusetts is over 100. They've been asking for a number of years for an increase, and I did increase them some from $40 to $50 a couple of years ago. But I have gone in, I've asked for the money, I haven't always gotten it. And this year we got some more money for that. There's also kind of the minimal increases, for rents and those sorts of things that it provides for, IT stuff and those kinds of things. That's not a huge increase in the budget. I will kind of I want to reiterate, or at least tell you folks, I've reiterated it in other places, that the whole rent situation around the state is an annoyance to me. BGS is tasked with doing this, and it doesn't work well. We'll have to create a budget that has a 3% increase, and they'll come in and be a 19% increase in rent. And I'll tell them I'm not doing it. And then they get mad at me because I negotiate behind their back and get a 6% or a 5% increase or whatever it is. I've been doing this over and over again. And I asked, I said, do you understand that we're being asked to create a budget with a 3% increase and then you come with 19%? And they go, no. I said, do you talk to finance when you did? No. So I get, annoyed, and I put myself in the middle of it, and I negotiate directly, and they don't like it, but I do it anyway. And so this issue is one that has, this past year, we had a number of different places that changed rentals. And so, it was a little bit tense with BGS, but.
So, Barbara,
So does BGS give you a breakdown on why they're charging you that?
No, not really. They're not renting from, it's not state buildings. What I'm talking about is where we have to rent, we're renting from private people in like Addison County and in Franklin County, and the like. And they do that. They send out an ad. Whoever answers the ad, they answer the ad. But one of my big complaints about this issue, and I don't want to get hung up on this in this budget presentation, but is that I don't think they know the market. And I know the market in these various areas, having been doing this for a long time. And we had in Northeast Kingdom, we were looking for rental space up there with the idea that we had to potentially establish a staff office instead of a contract office. And they came back to us and said, there's no place to rent. Meanwhile, I had people bidding on contracts. 3 different people, or 3 finalists who came in. Each of them came in with a place to rent, and one of them came in with 2 places. But BGS couldn't find any place.
They don't follow the have to get 3 bids on stuff or anything.
Well, they put the ad in, and whoever answers. And if there's 3, there's 3. If there's 6, there's 6. But nobody answers those ads. The bottom line is, it's just one of the things that we know what's going on the ground. We know what the market is in those areas. And so I know it angers them, or I don't know, whatever. They don't like it when we get involved, but I can't not do things because they say, oh, we don't have anything. And we found our own places. We end up negotiating our own deals, and then, we waste a lot of time. So anyway, that's just, rent increases are in there, and they are minimal because I negotiated minimal. I've said this many times when I come in here, and I think that people now pass over it and don't because they don't remember the way it used to be. We've been within budget, without budget adjustment, for 24 consecutive years and 26 actual budgets. And before that, I'm just trying to give you some facts here. For the 29 years before that, DG's office would be in the red every year. They would literally stop paying people in the middle of the year. They would furlough people. They'd stop operating. Cases would get pushed to ad hoc counsel. And it was, it was not good. So, it is one of the things we're proud of, is being able to maintain this understanding that we've created now a structure so that we can stay within budget without budget adjustment, and what levers we have to push and buttons we have to pull over, whatever, pull the levers, push the buttons to make things work. It's a delicate balance, and every year I'm adjusting things, but it has worked for, this will be the 26th, going into the fiscal 27, it'll be the 26th consecutive budget that I'm confident we'll be able to do the same thing. So doesn't mean everything's all rosy. Biggest issues that we have going forward are that there aren't enough lawyers out there that want to do this work. We have difficulty keeping and maintaining caseload relief contracts and assigned counsel conflict contracts. 2 years ago in Chittenden County, I'm here from Chittenden County, raise your hand. Okay. I had 5 primary.
Everybody.
There you go. Now that's no surprise. Representative.
Right now, I'm curious about that. Why is that not a surprise?
Well, there's a whole bunch of people. That's all.
The people are.
You know, it does represent 39% of the state caseload, so perhaps 60% of the House Judiciary Committee, but I don't know.
60.
And I don't know. In any event, I had 5 conflict contractors, 5. I had 2 backups, and I had 1 backup to the 2 backups. I also had 5 caseload relief contracts, right? Right now, I have 4 primary conflict contractors in Chittenden County. I have no backup. I have no backup to the backup. And I have 3 caseload relief contracts. So I'm down almost 50% in the available people who are willing to do this work in Chittenden County right now. So the ones who are left, the 4 who are left, are making an awful lot more money, and they are handling an awful lot more caseload, and they are getting the hell beat out of them. Because while it is, you know, on the one hand, it's just a lot of work for 4 people. And what I also do now is I have to call in caseload relief contractors from the south to handle cases in the north in Chittenden County. And that's not the only place, but Chittenden County is an example of what I was just talking about, being able to attract and keep these folks. Part of this is just pure demographics of lawyers. People who are doing the work are old, they're retiring, and they're not being replaced by younger people because the bar as a whole is old, it's retiring, and it's not getting replaced by younger lawyers.
And we have this problem in Chittenden County?
Absolutely. It's all over. It's the entire state, but Chittenden County, I'm just giving you as an example. If you want, I'll go through every county for you.
No,
But
Chittenden County's good.
But there are places where it is more tenuous, but because of the amount of the caseload in Chittenden County, it's a pressure cooker there. Northeast Kingdom is worse for having even less lawyers. So I'm pulling lawyers in from like, there are almost none of the lawyers in the Northeast Kingdom are in the Northeast Kingdom who are doing the work. They're coming in from other counties, from Washington County, from Windsor County, all over the place.
And when you do that, that costs more money, right?
No, not really. I mean, I probably have to pay a little bit more if I'm going to attract somebody from Washington County to go up there, but it's not significant. I have to pay mileage for them to travel up there. But with, you know, this is where the video stuff works, is being able to do non-evidentiary hearings, you know, kind of the logistical stuff, status conferences and discovery conferences, that kind of thing. You do them by video. And it allows us to handle this distance. That similar issue in, you know, in Windham County. Every county has this issue. Every county. But it's really that there's a lack of lawyers who are under the age of 40, who are the ones who are traditionally drawn to do public defense work. And Vermont Law School produces almost no lawyers for Vermont. You know, it is a big problem. It's bigger than public defense. State's attorneys, I know, have the exact same problem hiring people. When I was first DG in 2000, first 10 years, if I had an opening in the staff office in Chittenden County, I'd get 100 applications. Now I advertise. I can go months with no applicants. And then I get 3 applicants in there. Someone who's been doing real estate law in New York and thinks coming to Vermont would be a good thing, with no experience doing criminal law whatsoever, and they're not even licensed here. That seriously, this is what I'm dealing with. So, we've done some things. It's a separate issue, but these are some of the challenges that, this budget is encountering. Over time, the private sector for attorneys has again begun to, since COVID, has begun to outstrip what is available in the public sector. And I've told the story a number of times. I have a niece who graduated from Proctor High School, went to Holy Cross, then went to Catholic University School of Law. She was a very good student, but she wasn't like #1 in her class or anything. She got a job just outside of Boston in a medium-sized, like not Hale and Dorr with 15,000 lawyers or whatever, but a medium-sized firm in Massachusetts. Her starting salary, having not practiced one day of law in her entire life, was $200,000. She got a $40,000 signing bonus if she stayed for 6 months. They paid her 10 grand to move there. And then she got a bonus at the end of the year if she made her hours. And at the end of her first year, she put $300,000 in her pocket. Our starting salary is $63,000. So, if you have law school debt, you make your choice. So the bottom line is I've been able to hire anybody at 63,000, 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm starting people at 80 to 90 in that range anyway, just because that's what the market bears. The bottom line is there are all of these factors that are mitigating against, being able to kind of fix this problem. We don't really have, we don't have enough, there's no competition, there's not an oversupply of lawyers where they're all fighting for a job. The private sector is paying more. We have a law school that doesn't produce Vermont lawyers. And so, when I'm hiring people this year, I've gone to Kansas, I've gone to Nashville, Tennessee, I've gone to Florida, I've gone to North Carolina. That's where I'm hiring people from. People who want to escape the South oftentimes, and attracting people who have an affinity for sort of what they perceive as like the Vermont culture. The ones from Florida don't usually stay. Honestly, I had one who came up, they came up in September. It's like, this is awesome. I love Vermont. This is like the most beautiful place on earth. And we had our first snow in the middle of November. They're like, well, this must go away by like March. I'm like, and we had a holiday party, and it was below 0, and it was snowing. And then she quit and was gone by the first of the year. Like, I can't do this. I gotta get the hell out of here. Anyway, so let me do more budget stuff.
Can I ask
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
one question, Matt, before you go to, just because talking about young attorneys and trying to get them in Vermont, I think is something that we've been kind of hearing and thinking about here in this committee. My one question is, when you're trying to retain people for these contract positions, do you hear at all about like one of the barriers or one of the difficulties in attracting people is just that for a young attorney not having like benefits with the contract kind of prevents them from being able to do the work?
They don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's always been a thing. Well, we don't get this, we don't, whatever. You understand the way these contracts are, you probably do, but our design is that they are designed so you can have other work. They're not, a lot of them are not full-time. In the old days, they used to be 0.3 of an LEC or equivalent caseload. Think of an LEC as like an FTE, full-time employee. It's like a 0.3 or a 0.5. Now they're 0.7, 0.8. And so you can take other work. So you can do personal injury work or private criminal work or whatever it is you want to do, wills and trusts, whatever. And It was never really considered, this is all I do. Well, now the contracts have gotten to the point where people build their entire firms around the contract and they supplement it with other work. What they used to do is have other work and supplement it with the contract. So the design has sort of changed. And as a result, the payment per lawyer equivalent caseload has gone up significantly. When I was first DG, it was $45,000 per LEC. It's now a minimum of $150,000 per LEC. But if you have a half a contract, that means you're getting 75 grand. The biggest deterrent that I have found is, and I've expressed this to people in the court, is that some courts treat part-time contractors as if they're full-time employees of the court. They don't understand. They don't work for them, number one. And number two, they have expectations that are not consistent with a half-time work. And so people are like, I'm just not doing it because I can easily make this money in another way. It'd be, the availability, there's a whole bunch of reasons why you have to do contracts, and they all have to do with conflicts. So we can't treat them like employees. And while this comes up every now and then, we try to provide other benefits, like all of their training is free. All of their, we send them to trial school. We do a bunch of things that get them Westlaw for no money. There's a bunch of things that we can provide them that sort of cancel out the fact that you don't have health insurance. Although God knows what that's going to look like nowadays. In any event,
Yeah.
It's an issue. I don't know how you get around the conflict side of it, and the requirement that you be an independent contractor, and providing benefits.
I appreciate it.
I think I have an idea about that, but that's not for today.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of like someone coming out of law school and they're trying to like have a family, and like what ways that you could just try.
What I try to do with those folks who are interested is I place them with firms that already have contracts. And so then they have mentors and people they can deal with. Now, this is just to give you the context of what we're coming out of. In fiscal year 24, there was a small increase in felonies, small increase in misdemeanor, huge increase, 60% in probation violations. This is the full year, fiscal year 25, we had 11%, over 11% increase in cases, and cases are people, right? Charges are counts, effectively. And this is comparing 25 to 24. I set it out this way because everybody's always interested in their own county. For fiscal year 25, which ended in July, you can see the various ones where there were significant increases, and some where there were decreases. The thing I'm always concerned about is like what happens in Chittenden County, because it represents such a big part of the caseload. We had a 15% increase in clients and a 20% increase in the number of charges that were attached to the clients. I don't really worry too much about counties like, for example, Orange has a small, relatively small caseload, but ones like Windsor, Rutland, Bennington tend to be lots of caseload. I was advised by a representative from Addison County that Addison County only has 1,000 more people than Bennington County. Yet it has a significantly smaller criminal footprint. You'll notice that.
This goes back to, I think, Rep. Goodnow's question in the piece of that you've shared, that the balance, that the budget is always balanced each year and you don't need a BAA adjustment. But you also mentioned the challenges that your budget faces every year. So I'm curious, are you kind of making changes within the budget to address those challenges? Basically, like, are there needs that aren't being met by the budget that is so well balanced?
Every year.
So can you share some of that? Like,
Yeah, I'll get there.
okay.
Just a quick question about is this fiscal year, could you go back to the one? It says fiscal year 2024 above that orange. Should that be fiscal year 2025? No, that's one.
No, this is where you compare fiscal year 25 to 24.
Okay,
So where it says for example, Addison County, 5% increase in cases, that's over fiscal year 24,
thanks.
comparing the 2 years. Well,
No, I understand.
okay, this is family cases, juvenile cases, chins, A, B, C, D, delinquencies, termination of parental rights. It was basically flat, but we had come off a year in fiscal year 24 where we had, for example, this shows 11% decrease in the things on my screen that you don't see, but it shows 11% decrease in termination of parental rights. That prior year, we had an 80% increase in termination of parental rights. It better go back somewhere. There's still a lot of them. Otherwise, things are pretty kind of calm, and as you might expect, it was relatively flat. Sometimes those things, for example, you'll see Orleans County had a big increase, I think it was. Is it Orleans or is that Orange? Orange County. Sometimes you see that you have a DCF office that has had challenge, they had to hire. A bunch of people quit, left. District director wasn't around. Whatever it was, you have staffing changes, and then all of a sudden, everything that had been held that prior year, even though it's not big numbers, you'll see a big increase. And a lot of it has to do with what's really going on locally. It's not like a systemic thing. It's a personnel thing. This is the first half of fiscal year 26 in public defense. I am actually, if you look at, I always keep talking about, let's look at Chittenden County. Chittenden County is basically flat when you compare to 25. If you remember, in the summer, I came in and talked to Joint Justice Oversight, and it's like a 39% increase in caseload over the same period in Chittenden County. And I was like, if this continues, we're going to have a big problem. Well, but don't get too excited, because sometimes these things are a blip. And I don't want to get into the whole detail of it. I have an algorithm that I created over 20 years ago where we try to do some predictors and, where caseload is going to go. And the 39%, that huge increase in the first quarter, made no sense at all to me. But, Chittenden County was killing it at that point. But we finished the second quarter, and actually we're down a little teeny bit compared to fiscal year 25. So that was a big relief, to be perfectly honest. And all it really means is we've kind of settled into something. Now, coming out of COVID, everything was weird. Nothing was normal anywhere. It had to do with all kinds of things. State's attorneys who didn't have enough state's attorneys, and courts that losing staff, and we were down 6 judges at one point, and nothing was getting processed. In any event, overall statewide, we're seeing about a 6.7% increase on top of the increase from fiscal year 25, which I go back to, which was 11.3. Then, so we're not seeing a decline. We're seeing this kind of constant, this big increase, and then it's a little bit less of an increase, but it's on top of big increases. And this is what we're dealing with. Unfortunately, we're dealing with this caseload with less lawyers than we had before. That our staff system, however, aside from one person who resigned just recently, we were actually fully staffed in the staff system. This is just a way of kind of graphically showing what we have seen. The biggest increases, by the way, tend to be these other cases, and others are probation violations. That's what those are. And so graphically showing that this is what you see. We saw some decreases year after year when you compare the first half of 25 to the first half of 26, except for in probation violation cases. And overall, we're seeing the 6.7% increase. We always want to talk about backlogs because that's all we seem to talk about. Backlogs are starting to go down. If you remember over a period of the last couple of years, I come in with this exact same chart. This is court data. This isn't my data. But we started 25 with 14,000 in the backlog. It kind of nothing really changed. I'm like, here we go again. It tends to go up for whatever reason in July, August, and September, and then starts to drop a little bit. But this year it precipitously dropped through January of 26. This is just a snapshot of, and I put this in, this is again for the benefit of representatives and senators who want to know how their county's doing. And this just tells you what the, what the gross numbers are for their particular counties. People are interested in that. To me, from a allocation standpoint of resources and the like, it doesn't mean as much any individual county. If you remember, I showed you this last year, and maybe you don't, but that dotted line you see across, this was when we were sort of paying off the credit card by making the minimum payment. Take you 39 years to pay it off, but eventually you'll get there. But this is what it looks like right now. If you go from the beginning of 25, it was kind of doing that same thing. Then it went up a little bit, but September, October, we've seen a pretty big decline. So we went from over 14,000 in the backlog to 9,000, and that's a significant reduction. We're still working on it. Now, the only thing I worry about is there are cases that have come in the first quarter and first half of this year, particularly that first quarter in Chittenden County, and there's other counties too, obviously. Those aren't in the backlog yet because they aren't old enough. So it would not surprise me if at some point you see a blip in this backlog, just like you saw the decline. But these are kind of the caseload pressures. Now, this is important. I put this every year. I put this out there, and I want you to try to focus a little bit on this. There are 4 primary ways we provide the service. All right. PD staff offices, public defender contracts, assigned counsel conflict contracts, and ad hoc counsel. This is the payment per lawyer equivalent caseload of the way we provide these services. The most efficient way that we provide the service is by assigned counsel contracts, the conflict contracts. A lot of it has to do with lack of benefits. The public defender contracts are another way that we provide them. Similarly, it's benefits issues, but these tend to be the bigger firms who have 60% of their gross revenue of the firm or more is not public defense work, it's something else. And then you've got ad hoc counsel, which is far and away and continues to be the most expensive way we do business. Now, this is like we're looking at fiscal year 22, 23 here. What I wanted to show you, and I try to track this. We have actually reduced our cost per lawyer equivalent caseload between 23 and 25. Even ad hoc counsel is down. And so, oddly enough, our cost efficiency has improved over the last 3 fiscal years, despite increasing costs in where we're getting hit, because this doesn't include operating expenses and other personal services, the cost of the lawyers has gone down. Why? Because the old people are retiring and they're more expensive. And the ones who are left, while they're getting paid more money, are handling more caseload. When you break up a lot of contracts into like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, there's a diseconomies of scale that goes with that. When those contracts get to be 0.7, 0.8, now you get an economies of scale because you're getting payment for volume, even though they're getting paid more money. This is not necessarily a good thing. It looks good from like the bean counters, but I question whether it is sustainable from a workload standpoint. Right? This is the comparison. Little decrease in PD staff officers. That's primarily because older people have retired. PD contracts went up a little teeny bit, but that's if I had stretched that out over a period of other years. The reason it went up from 225 to 240 for LEC is because we entered a new contract period for that 4-year contracts that I talked about earlier. Signed council contracts per LEC have dropped. Remember, I said there was a minimum payment for LEC, so we're of 150, we're at 163, we were at 183, and for ad hoc council, the reason this is actually the most interesting to me. When you can drop ad hoc from 671 per LEC to 553, it means that we're doing a really good job keeping it to misdemeanors, because misdemeanors are cheaper and they have lower caps. So if we're doing all the right things, which is keeping felonies out of ad hoc, you should see that decline every so often, and that's what we did.
So I'm just going to do a time check. We have about 10 minutes, and I know folks have meetings that they have to go to at quarter after. So
yeah, don't worry. I've done this. I got this time down to like.
What if we have questions though about the new things?
Good. This is just a graphic showing you what's happened with ad hoc over the years. It used to be the kind of thing we were looking at trending toward 1.2 million. And now it represents a minuscule portion of the caseload, which is exactly what we should be doing. This is the ups and downs sheet that you see. I put it in here because some people like to look at that. I barely look at it. This is the part that you probably are all interested in. What is not in the governance recommend that I'd like to see, and any other kind of issues. Oddly enough, other personal services in the conflict side of the budget received a $250,000 increase. Other personal services on the public defense side got the same $250,000. My guess is they're just trying to make stuff fit, because I can't rationally understand why you would do that. So that's why that's number one on the list. Number two on the list, and this is one. Remember this slide I showed you about cheapest way we do business is assign council contracts? They still need increases. And that we didn't get any of that. There's 250 grand we were looking for, which we didn't get. And to me, you have to lean into your most efficient way of doing business, and that is conflict contracts that are out there. Finally, and this is just sometimes when you work for government, you want to just smash your head into something. And in-person training is one of the things that I smacked in my head for 4 years. During COVID, I said, we aren't going to do in-person training, so you can take that money out. And then we got out of it. I'm like, well, put it back in. And then it didn't. And then it did. And last year it went in, but it's supposed to go back in the base. They put it in one time. I have no idea why it went in one time, because we do it every time. I won't, and I told them, like, in the appropriations, I know you don't have control of this, right? But the $80,000 goes into the base of the budget, not in one-time money, so I can train people. That's why it's there. Okay. The two unfunded additional needs are an issue we deal with every single year. And I just bring it up so that people don't think I've given up or forgot about it. The Public Defender Special Fund is funded by co-pays and the like on a sliding scale, and ordered by the court on a kind of a regular basis. Every year we get spending authority of around 600,000. I think it's 589 or something. And we haven't gotten that kind of money in 6-7 years. They collect way less. So while there's spending authority, there's no money, and I don't spend money we don't have. And so it's a total fallacy to think that we have $589,000 to spend to balance the budget. What it really means is I start every single year with the difference between the spending authority and the actual money. And it averages out about $290,000. So I always start out with a $290,000 hold. So I bring it up again, and this happens every year. The other thing is this year, I think to make everything work, they put in a vacancy savings of $610,000, which no way in hell is that ever going to happen. I don't have that many people leaving. It's not going to happen. And realistic vacancy savings would be about $300,000. And so I put it in as an unfunded additional need. So those two things at the bottom, what I end up doing is I just end up holding positions open longer. I don't fill a position. I do all kinds of things to make sure that we stay within our budget, because it's, you know, I do these things all the time. And I've been doing them for years. But I don't want to ever let it slide that I'm not recognizing the fact that you're starting me with a $290,000 hole and then another $310,000 that I don't have, that you have declared that I have, even though I don't. So it adds up to $1.1 million. But the bottom line is, if I can get the things I need to fund the current services that remain unfunded, that $580,000, then I can deal with the rest of it, and be okay. The bottom line, you know, the in-person training was actually in the budget. I mean, I'm not even asking for new money. I'm just saying put it in the right place. So when it really boils down to it, I have a $30+ million budget, and I'm looking for $500,000. And it's not a lot, and I should get.
Is that a statement like it's already
Well,
gonna happen?
I think I should, but I understand the way these things work. They got it, you know, when they're doing a budget, they add things up, and well, we got to take some out of everybody, so we'll take some out of that, and that's what it adds up to. In our budget, that $500,000 is not even rounding error. It's not even, it's, you know, the average Vermonter would say that's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money, even 30 million plus, that is the budget as recommended. So honestly, we're very close. And I've actually said this to Adam Gresham, you know, I'd love to go in 1 year and just say, we're really content with the governor's recommend. We're very close. Honestly, we're very close. But, you know, what do they say? Close is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades. So, you know, this is a budget, so
Appreciate
it's
that.
different.
So just to not put too fine a point on it, if you don't fund the attorney contracts, you might be looking at the ad hoc, which is just, you have to defend, and it's just a lot more expensive.
Right, and there's a whole bunch of problems with ad hoc, but you have to have it out there. It costs, you know, 3 to 4 times what a contract costs. We have no control over the quality of the representation, because the court is just finding warm bodies. We don't have any ability to train them. It's just somebody who's willing to do it. And so it's not really the best way to provide a service, but right now it's such a small number and it's only misdemeanors that, it, it doesn't bother me that much in the aggregate. Any individual case, it might bother me if I kind of peeled back the layers of the onion, but the bottom line is it really is a very, very small, we're talking like we do 22,000 cases overall a year and it's like 69 cases. So, yeah.
So the 500,000 is above 3%. Is that right?
We got a 6.4% increase over last year. But this is the 500,000 over the governor's recommend.
Right. Right, which is 3%.
No,
No.
which was 6.4%.
Oh, okay, okay. Gotcha.
But if you add it in and do the math, instead of 6.4%, it ends up being like 6.9%. It's the percentage difference is teeny.
Any other questions? All right, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Matt, for being here. That was very helpful. We'll try to get it for you.
I mean,
You should have it.
Yeah, you should have it. I agree with that. So, all right,
all right.
so that's it. We're adjourned until tomorrow at 9. We're at the pavilion tomorrow to hear about the pilot, the 3D pilot. I think we have Matt coming in tomorrow morning, I believe. Yeah, at some point. So